Motherfuckers, after lost their two semifinals against Wei and Sindarov, now Esipenko and Yokoué have the last chance to qualify to the candidates in the battle for the third place of the World Cup. So I'm going to show us the third game of the match, with the white pieces go Andrei Esipenko. Okay, he opened with e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, the Sicilian selected by Yakubev, very aggressive. In the lead, the most normal way is a response with e5, but okay, he goes aggressive. bc5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, and here black have some ways to play. For example, e5 is one, d6 is the other, but he chose the 4 knight Sicilian with e6, and now Esipenko goes for the sharpest line with knight c6, bc6, and e5, knight d5, knight d4. Here, okay, main move was queen c7, but bishop b7 is a very solid line employed by some players. And here the main move was bishop e2, and that's the main line. Queen c7, knight d6, takes. We cannot take here because c4, so queen c6, f3, defending the diagonal, c4, covering c4 to take on d6. Now white is going to take on c4, and okay, this position have many games. But instead of entering all of this, Esipenko decides to deviate of that and plays bishop d3. He have this move prepared. And here Yakubev is out of the theory. Now he starts to think and he finds queen c7, which is a good move. f4, and now black have two normal ways to play. One was knight b4, played by Yakubev, just attacking the bishop, and the other is just c5, open the bishop, was so logical. Here white should play with c4, knight b4, bishop b1, knight c6, or castle, and a5. That could be a normal line. Okay, knight b4, play Yakubev was completely fine. Bishop b2, and now c5, open the bishop, completely normal. Bishop f3, and here Yakubev play a very strange move in my opinion. He played knight d5, sorry, bishop d5. I suppose that with the idea of avoid some knight d6, maybe that's the idea of bishop d5, or I'm not sure if he's avoiding, because I don't think that he's attacking a2. Doesn't look like the a2 pawn is a pawn that you want to take, or he wants to. I don't really understand the move bishop d5. I suppose that he wants to return to c6 with the knight, just cover the d6 square and not allow knight d6, but this doesn't work. Here c4 was the normal move, taking more space. For example, if a3 just in the knight, we can return to d5. 24, that's the correct way to cover d6. 24, h5, win more space in the king side. So castle and now trade queens. Would be logical, win space in the queen side first with c4. Later win space in the king side with h5, and after white put his king side, now trade queens. Looks so logical. And if king is so castle, bishop b7, bishop b3, so castle, queen d2, that could be a normal way to play. But okay, bishop d5, I think that this move is so strange. I don't really understand what the bishop is doing on d5. I suppose that Nordic idea is cover d6, but this move doesn't cover d6. So, okay, c3 first was possible, but okay, and short castle was a good move. Bishop b7, now just c3, ajax in the right, bishop c6, knight c6, sorry, and now Esipenko had a very good move, just to take a clear advantage, with knight d6, taking this square. The idea is if black takes or black should takes, of course. If not, you cannot move the game because there's bishop d5 and white is winning here. So bishop take d6, he take d6. If you take with the queen, now c4, the bishop is pinned and black is white is winning material. So you should just first trade the bishops. Rook takes, and now you cannot take, so queen d8. And this position looks like it's so promising for white. The d6 pawn looks so annoying, and I really like the white position thanks to the d6 pawn. Here, white can play or normal with bishop e3 just attacking c5, and I don't really know what black is going to defend the pawn. Or f5 was so strong too. Open the diagonal, and now white has plan of attack e7. So castle, rook d3, king h8, queen h5. This line is more or less for bishop g5, queen f5, rook f1, queen e6, queen h4, f5, and now bishop e7, and white win material. And if black doesn't play like this, and white is just winning. So here knight d6 will be close to be win. I don't understand why Esipenko doesn't play knight d6. Could look like the most natural move. Okay, he played bishop b3, who looks normal too, attacking c5. But this move is a little bit passive. You are just losing the momentum. Okay, so castle. Now knight g3, but okay, now for example, if you take here now bishop here and knight here, it looks strange. For example, bishop f3, and then knight e5, and this like this. So it's just an example line, for example. That's why I cannot take on e5, on c5. Sorry. Okay, he played knight g3, bishop takes, queen takes. Now he break on d5. Very good move. F5 is possible to break here, but okay. I think that e5 is stronger. Okay, d5 good move. Pawn takes, bishop takes, f5. Now, okay, he take on g3, who is possible. Knight e5 here was a little bit better according to the machine. Entering, yes, just develop the pieces. But okay, bishop b3 was completely fine. Queen takes, and now, of course, you should play c4. Rook f4 here was interesting, just attacking c4 and after take, entering this position, where there are just an imbalanced pawn structure who used to benefit the bishop. Because, okay, white have more pawns in the queen side and black have more pawns in the king side. And are going to be a pawn race, and this used to benefit the bishops always over the knights. So f takes a6, okay, it's putting pressure too. Rook takes, and rook d1. Now white is playing so active, so black now decides to sacrifice a pawn and to activate his pieces after rook d6, knight d5. Rook takes knight g4. Okay, white win a pawn, but let's see that now the knight is active on g4. Black is attacking b2, and after bishop c1. Now both black pieces are so active. The rook on d8 and the knight on g4 are so active pieces. So now the position is more or less balanced. Of course, I think that white position is slightly pleasant because more pleasant because he have an extra pawn, but okay, black can hold the game. King f7, king rook e2. Here, this way to defend was stronger. Rook d1, rook d3, and king f6. But okay, he played rook d5, who is playable. King e1, and now Nordiberg starts to play bad the endgame. He removed the knight from e4, who is completely perfectly placed because he's covering the e3 square, which is going to be so important because in some moments black is coming with rook d3 to attack e3. You are stopping bishop e3, so the knight is well placed on on g4. He tried to improve the knight going to d3, but the knight is just better on g4 than on e3. Here is moment to improve the pawns, taking space with h5 and securing the spot on g4 for the knight. Yeah, and if b3 logical move, just you can trade and attack both pawns. So now you doesn't give white the option of play b3, who is the white plan. The problem of knight d5 is that you are allowing b3 because now you cannot take and sorry uh, them and rook d3 because now the knight is hanging. Here, the best move by black is a6, who is not icing move. Because just the rook and the knight is well placed, and you just should put your pawn in like the square. Knight d3 is second mistake, just king d1. And here comes the last mistake of Jakube, but his position is so difficult to hold. The machine gives this line to defend. Knight takes, king takes, pawn takes, rook d3, rook f2, and now it's incredible that the best move is not king e6, which is the move who could make all the master that you put this position. The best move is king e7. Because what happened that after king e6, rook f3, rook d5, c4, rook e5, rook d3, here white is white is better because this rook could enter on d8. That's a huge difference. That with king e7 in the same line with rook f3, rook d5, c4, rook e5, rook d2, sorry, rook d3. Here you have rook d2 and white is not enter on d8 with the rook in some lines. Yeah, it's also difficult, of course, to understand all of this. For example, with king e6, sorry, with the king on e6, look have maybe this line up. Maybe first here, and one day after defend this pawn. Yeah, it's of course also difficult to understand why the king is worse on e6 and why not. But for example, here c5 can king with rook d6 can king with check. But of course, this is the best option for black to try to hold the endgame, entering the rook endgame, who looks close to be lost, but okay, you have some options. You play so well. Instead of that, he makes his four mistake in a row, h5, and now just after bishop b2 and bishop b3 attacking h7, defending a2 with the rook, a6. Now he finally takes the pawn, and now the knight is trapped on d3. Let's say that he had a incredible knight on g4 some moves ago, and now that the knight is trapped on, he tries to improve the knight to d3, but now the knight is trapped because after knight here just bishop f4. So okay, very good game of Andrei Esipenko who strike first, and let's see if he managed to qualify to the candidates. Bye bye, motherfuckers.
Let's see.
Bye bye.